hurt really bad, so I started like blacking out a little bit. But he said I probably have a concussion because I was like wobbly, my eyes weren't tracking. I thought it was just like a regular like hit to the head or whatever. I didn't think it was anything serious, but I took a test in September, and I took a test today, the same test, to see if like my memory was as good as it was in September, and I got the results, and it was not even close.
Concussion is an injury to the brain that doesn't show up on an MRI or a CT scan. On the field, a player will usually have a traumatic event where they're hit or where they fall down, and they'll start to look dazed or as though they don't know where they are. Many of them will complain of a headache immediately. Some of them will complain of dizziness or kind of foggy feeling on the field. If a concussion is missed, that player is going to go back on the field and they could suffer a second impact. And if they have that second impact or that second injury, it could lead to lifelong problems.
I didn't hear the word concussion growing up. There was no such thing, you know. You shook it off and you went back and played ball. It can be very traumatic. We've had 2 in my time here. Memory loss, dizziness, whatever it could be. Something is not right. As a coaching staff, if we suspect that one of my players has a concussion, not feeling up to par, obviously abnormal situations, they come immediately out of the game. We have an athletic trainer on staff, so it's an easier process here.
Times have changed. They used to grade them mild, moderate, severe, and now they no longer do that. So if you have a concussion, it's a concussion. Every one of them needs to be evaluated, and it's important with youth athletes that they're evaluated by a physician that really understands and is educated in adolescent and pediatric medicine. If you see something that's abnormal, they're just not acting right, you have to pull them out and see what's going on. And that could be from one big hit, that could be from multiple hits over time. Each athlete is different, and concussion can kind of come in a different way. We can't have athletic trainers everywhere. So it's important that these coaches understand their athletes. A lot of coaches may misinterpret concussion with dehydration or a kid acting silly, which happens. You want to get them off the sideline, just ask simple questions. Who are you playing? What jersey number do you have on? Things like that. How are you feeling? If you feel like it's something a little bit more serious, then you do some simple balance tasks. Get them balance on one foot, tandem stance, things like that. Typically with concussion, they'll fall off to the side. There's 4 things that kind of warrant a quick trip to the ER. Loss of consciousness is number 1. A kid gets unconscious, 911 immediately, get them onto the emergency room. Vomiting, increased headaches, or abnormal behavior, like the way they're talking to you, slurred speech, things like that. But most concussions don't need to go to the ER. And these kids, make sure you don't leave them alone for at least 6 hours to make sure they're not getting worse. Allow them to rest their brain. They shouldn't return to school or certainly play sports until they've been seen by a physician trained in pediatric and adolescent concussions. We have a lot of club teams come in, take this impact test. Impact is a neuropsychological test that's done on a computer. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes. But what it tests is memory, reaction time, cognitive processing. Generally, we'll have a kid come in, do it before they even sustain a concussion. That way we have a baseline. If a kid does get a concussion, we'll have them come back in, take the test, and we'll compare the 2. And if our physician feels it's deemed necessary to get them onto vestibular training, we'll get them into rehab. And what we do is we'll try and figure out what's causing that dizziness. Is it positional? Is it more just balanced? Things like that.
When you look at RJ's injury on the field, it's fairly obvious that he has a concussion while he's there on the field in his soccer equipment. But when he comes into the office, he looks quite a bit better. He still isn't functioning at his regular level, and as we followed him through his concussion, you could see that when he took our neurocognitive test or our computer-based impact test, even though he was speaking normally and interacting normally, he was still suffering cognitively on that test. That cognitive test in the clinic is important for us to help diagnose, but could you imagine if it was his SAT or ACT that he was scoring that poorly on when somebody thought that he was able to take it? The first line person that's going to recognize a concussion is going to be the coach or the athletic trainer or a parent on the side of the field, because often a player doesn't realize they've been concussed. If the child gets past that point and ends up in school, though, that's going to fall on the teacher, the guidance counselor, to notice small changes in that child to help them recognize that there is something wrong. The most common symptom associated with concussion is headache, but kids will come in maybe hiding that headache or not recognizing the headache or blaming it on something else. So the other symptoms a teacher might see is they might see that the child's not performing at their normal level, or they look as though they're not really there or not focusing like they normally do. Concussion doesn't only happen in collision or contact sports. We've seen concussion happening in soccer players, we've seen concussion happening in cheerleaders, gymnasts, and even skateboarders. So these children may not be in the high school athletic association sports and may show up to school after their recreational event suffering from the effects of a concussion. Even though they may be smiling and still playing with their friends in class or in the hallway, they may be suffering cognitively and will score low on tests, which affects their grade point average and their future.
The Return to Learning policy provides a guideline for teachers. It provides a list of the symptoms that they may see in a student. So if they seem to be acting differently than they normally do, it's not because they're being lazy, it's because they may have a concussion. We want to prevent a permanent consequence due to a short-term limitation. The Return to Learning document provides communication between the healthcare provider and the student's teacher, which lists the symptoms that the student is currently showing so they can be aware of it, what to look for, and it also gave the accommodations that we should provide for the student. Should they be back in the gym class? Should they be taking high-risk, high academic tests at this time? Because we have students that are taking AP exams. Are they ready for that?
The most important treatment for concussion is both physical and cognitive rest. The Florida High School Athletic Association has helped us a lot with creating a return to play protocol, keeping kids off the field. The hard part is that cognitive rest, because homework or too much reading or any type of cognitive stimulation from a computer or anything can cause a kid's symptoms to get worse. We're not only asking them to not be on the field playing their sport, but when they're at home, we ask them not to watch television, not to watch movies, not to play on the computer, even to stop texting, because any of those cognitive loads can cause worsening of their symptoms. When a student athlete is having active symptoms and having headaches each day or dizziness, we often keep them away from school. We'll start to return them to school in a gradual way, where they'll come in maybe for a half a day, morning or afternoon, starting to reacclimate to school and those stresses associated with school.
From being a player to now being here at the high school level and coaching the rec level a couple years ago, it's not worth it for a coach to jeopardize a kid's future. It's really not. You know, I mean, the W's not worth it. That means that it's one of your best players and you lose them, then so be it. But you know, you want to have children have a healthy life and still be able to continue playing the game that he loves to play. And if it means sitting out 1 or 2, 3 weeks, whatever it takes, then that's what it takes.
To get a child back to their former level of functioning after a concussion, it takes an entire team. It takes the coach and the athletic trainer to get them back on the field, but it also takes the guidance counselor, the teacher, and their family to help support them as they get back to their regular level of schooling and their true potential, and score the grades that they're supposed to score and achieve the things that they're supposed to achieve in the classroom.
The Florida High School Athletic Association has mandated statewide return-to-play protocols. Return-to-learning policies are established by local school districts. Contact your school's administration for information about its return-to-learning policy.